right. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
We are back. Continuing on with our look at the triennial Torah portion. This week we are getting through this book, Deuteronomy, about to start over again here. We are looking at chapter 30 of Deuteronomy this week. Title, When All These Things Come Upon You. When all these things come upon you. Alright, so we are going to I think we're just going to go ahead and read through the chapter. We'll go ahead and read through chapter 30. And then we'll go ahead and go back and look at some of the key points that we see over here. Let me go ahead and just jump right into this thing here. I'll go ahead and pull up for us the chapter. Chapter 30 here. Put it up here on the screen and we'll go ahead and read right through. Go ahead and read that. Wait a second. Hold on 1 second here. Here we go.
And it shall be, when all these words come upon you, the blessing and the curse, which I have set before you, you shall bring them back to your heart among all the nations where Yahweh your Elohim drives you, and shall turn back to Yahweh your Elohim, and obey his voice, according to all that I command you today, with all your heart and with all your being, you and your children. Then Yahweh your Elohim shall turn back your captivity, and shall have compassion on you, and he shall turn back and gather you from all the peoples where Yahweh your Elohim has scattered you. If any of you are driven out of the farthest parts under the heavens, from there Yahweh your Elohim does gather you, and from there he does take you. And Yahweh your Elohim shall bring you to the land which your fathers possessed, and you shall possess it. And he shall do good to you, and increase you more than your fathers. And Yahweh your Elohim shall circumcise your heart and the heart of your seed, to love Yahweh your Elohim with all your heart and with all your being, so that you might live. And Yahweh your Elohim shall put all these curses on you, on your enemies, and on those who hate you, and who persecuted you. And you shall turn back and obey the voice of Yahweh, and do all his commands, which I command you today. And Yahweh your Elohim shall make you have excess in all the work of your hand, and the fruit of your body, and in the fruit of your livestock, and in the fruit of your ground for good. For Yahweh turns back to rejoice over you for good, as he rejoiced over your fathers, if you obey the voice of Yahweh your Elohim, to guard his commands and his laws, which are written in this book of the Torah. If you turn back to Yahweh your Elohim with all your heart and with all your being. For this command which I am commanding you today, it is not too hard for you, nor is it far off. It is not in the heavens to say, who shall ascend into the heaven for us, and bring it to us, and cause us to hear it, so that we do it. And nor is it beyond the sea to say, who shall go over the sea for us, and bring it to us, and cause us to hear it, so that we do it. For the word is very near you, in your mouth and in your heart, to do it. So I have set before you today life and good, and death and evil. And that I am commanding you today to love Yahweh your Elohim, to walk in his ways and to guard his commands and his laws and his right rulings, and you shall live and increase. And Yahweh your Elohim shall bless you in the land which you go to possess. But if your heart turns away and you do not obey, and shall be drawn away, and shall bow down to other mighty ones and serve them. I have declared to you today that you shall certainly perish. You shall not prolong your days in the land which you are passing over Jordan to enter and possess. I have called the heavens and the earth as witnesses today against you. I have set before you life and death, the blessing and the curse. Therefore you shall choose life, so that you live, both you and your seed. To love Yahweh, your Elohim, to obey his voice, and to cling to him, for he is your life, and the length of your days, to dwell in the land which Yahweh swore to your fathers, to Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, to give them.
Okay, very good. All right. Let me just make a quick little note here. Go ahead and continue this. All right, so if we go back up here to the top, a few things I wanted to look at here. If we go over okay, so I want to look at verse, where is it here? Verse 4. It's interesting when we understand the fact that, thinking about Deuteronomy 28, the place in which we are, in regards to, Moses speaking, after having talked about the blessings and the cursings, right? And start the way this chapter begins, when all these things come upon you, in terms of the fact that Israel, there will come a time when Israel will have experienced the blessings, right? Where Israel will have experienced the blessings that come as a result of walking in the ways of the Most High, living a life of obedience to his will and his ways. But also, again, when we look at these curses, which, they're kind of given in a way like this is what will happen if you do this or that. But we know, according to history, that Israel was in fact disobedient to the Most High to a point where these curses really have been fully manifest. And so that chapter 28, predicts really the total destruction of the people, right? The total scattering of the people throughout the earth, living an existence that is beneath and that is below. And to get his people, Israel, back to a point of return, this too then must be prophetic. Because if the Most High said it's going to be this way, how is this thing able to be rectified but by the way in which he said he was going to solve this problem, which of course was the instituting of the new covenant? Because the new covenant is the way in which the Most High's people will be restored. Right? And so if we look, as it says in verse 2, and shall turn back to Yahweh your Elohim and obey his voice, the way that Israel, the only way that Israel is able to recuperate, to recover, to return back from what happens as a result of the manifestation of, the curses that we read about in Deuteronomy 28, the way that it says in verse 3, then Yahweh your Elohim will turn back your captivity. Well, again, we're talking about turning back your captivity after the people were destroyed. After the people was to a place where no man can save you. Right? And so when we look at Deuteronomy chapter 30, where it's talking about the fact that, Israel, of course, is given the opportunity to turn back and to come back into the good graces of the Most High, we have to be able to understand this as being, kind of this future prophecy, that can only be brought about by the new covenant. Because again, looking at the words where it says, and it shall be when all these words come upon you, the blessings and the curses. And so if we're talking about all of the curses that we read in Deuteronomy 28, again, there's no there's no return from these places without spiritual intervention. And so when we look over here at this chapter here, I wanted to focus on verse 4 for a moment, where it says, if any of you are driven out to the farthest parts under the heavens. Let's see here. If we look at this here, let me pull up the Strongs here. First of all, let me move my face here out of the way. I want to look at, hold on one second here. If any of you are driven out, so we're talking about this right here. If any of thine be driven out, let's look at this word here. Some translations might even say outcasts here. This word here is nadak, to push off, literally and figuratively, to expel, mislead, strike, inflict. Again, when we think about the state of Israel, Israel, as a result of disobedience to the Most High will in fact become outcasts and be at the ends of the earth, all over the place, right? As a result of the judgment of the Most High, right? Driven out into the outmost parts of the heavens. And so I wanted to actually look at thinking about, these outcasts. First of all, thinking about the outcasts and what it takes for these outcasts for Israel to be regathered. Because it's more than just turning around, right? It's more than just saying I'm sorry, right? It's more than just your garden variety repentance. And I'm saying that because if we look over at Isaiah chapter 11, there's some extra ingredients involved in the return. So let's look over here. Let's actually read chapter 11. It goes along with what we're talking about here. Read 1 through 3. Yeah. Isaiah 11, 1 through 3.
And a rod shall come forth from the stump of Yishai, and a sprout from his roots shall be fruitful. The Spirit of Yahweh shall rest upon him, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, the Spirit of knowledge and the fear of Yahweh. And shall make him breathe in the fear of Yahweh, and he shall not judge by the sight of his eyes, nor decide by the hearing of his ears.
Okay, very good. So when we think about this here, this, of course, is dealing with Yeshua, right? This is dealing with Yeshua, right? The rod shall come forth from the stump of Jesse with the Spirit that is resting upon him. If we look at verse 2 here, verse 2, this word rest is nuach, right? It is to rest. It is to settle down, using a great variety of applications, literally and figuratively, to dwell, to stay, to let fall, to let alone withdraw, comfort, remain, and so on and so forth. And so when we think about this Spirit that's resting upon this one that comes forth out of the stem of Jesse, it's obviously speaking about Yeshua HaMashiach. Okay? And so this one that has the Ruach, because again, we look at verse 2 where it talks about the Spirit and it gives you all of these different spirits: spirit of wisdom, spirit of understanding, counsel, might, knowledge, the fear of Yahweh. All of these things are things that are all incorporated in the Ruach HaKodesh. And so it's interesting when we look at, we're going to continue with Isaiah chapter 11, but it's interesting when we look at John 3, read verse 34.
34.
Just read up a little bit. Read 31 down to 34.
He who comes from above is over all. He who is from the earth is one of the earth and speaks of the earth. He who comes from the heaven is over all. And what he has seen and heard, that he witnesses. And no one receives his witness. He who receives his witness has set his seal that Elohim is true. For he whom Elohim has sent speaks the words of Elohim. For Elohim does not give the Spirit by measure.
Okay, the Elohim has not given the Spirit by measure to this one that is speaking of, that Yahweh, that Elohim has sent, Yeshua. And so when we think about what we saw over in Isaiah chapter 11, we're talking about the Spirit that comes and rests on this one, this rod out of the stem of Jesse, who has the Spirit that comes and rests on him. Unlike you and I, Elohim did not give the Spirit to Yeshua by measure. In other words, he didn't get like like how it talks about we receive an earnest of the Spirit. It talks about, right? Few places this word is used where it's really talking about the way in which the Ruach comes to us as a seed, as a portion, as a down payment. But in regards to Yeshua, it said that he does not give the Spirit by measure. And it's interesting if we couple that with, if we go over to verse chapter 14 and 20, read 23.
Yeshua answered him, if anyone loves me, he shall guard my word. And my Father shall love him, and we shall come to him and make our stay with him.
Make our stay with him. Make our stay. Some versions say make our abode. If we looked at that word over there, this Greek word, but it has the same kind of definition as what we just looked at in terms of the Spirit dwelling on the root of David, the word nuach, which is to stay, that is to make a residence, to abode, right? You're there, you setting up shop, you're not going anywhere, right? And so again, when we look at looking back at chapter 11, because again we're looking at chapter 11 thinking about Deuteronomy chapter 30, because we're thinking about the idea of the state of Israel as outcasts. How does Israel get back? It's not just regular, I'm sorry for what I've done, right? There's something more that must take place. And okay, so let's go back to Isaiah. Isaiah 11. And let's continue reading at verse 4 through 9. Read 4 through 9 here.
But with righteousness he shall...
Oh, wait. Just read 3 again.
And shall make him breathe in the fear of Yahweh, And he shall not judge by the sight of his eyes, nor decide by the hearing of his ears.
Okay, hold on one second. Let's think about this for a second here. This verse 3. And he, this one, who has the spirit without measure, the spirit of knowledge and fear and counsel and might and wisdom and understanding that's resting on him. It says he shall not judge by sight of his eyes. So he's a judge, this one. He's not going to judge by the sight of his eyes, verse 4 says, but with righteousness
He shall judge the poor, and shall decide with straightness for the meek ones of the earth, and shall strike the earth with the rod of his mouth, and slay the wrong with the breath of his lips.
5 too.
And righteousness shall be the girdle of his loins, and trustworthiness the girdle of his waist.
Okay, very good. So this judge, he's a righteous judge. He's a righteous judge. But a judge no less. Here, let's go back to John real quick. Let's see what it say about Yeshua, and because we're still talking about this one who the Spirit rests on, and we're looking at some of the things that he is said to be responsible for. If we go to John 5, what does what's verse 22 say?
For the Father judges no one, but has given all judgment to the Son.
Oh, okay. So the judge that's talking about in Isaiah chapter 11, I think is talking about Yeshua. He's already talking about Yeshua because he's talking about this stem of Jesse and a branch that shall grow out of his roots with the Spirit that's upon him. But it tells you how he won't judge out the sight of his eyes, neither reprove after hearing of his ears. He's not judging based on his own thoughts and judgment. But read, keep on reading, 23.
That all should value the Son even as they value the Father. He who does not value the Son does not value the Father who has sent him.
24.
Truly, truly, I say to you, he who hears my word and believes in him who sent me possesses everlasting life, and does not come into judgment, but has passed from death into life.
25.
Truly, truly, I say to you, the hour is coming, and now is, when the dead shall hear the voice of the Son of Elohim, and those having heard that shall live.
Okay, so there's things that this judge is going to be saying that's going to cause you and I to come alive and live. Okay? And so, also we can think about the fact that he's going to be saying things that people aren't going to be agreeable with. And those people, they're not going to live, right? They're going to be judged, right, by him who is the judge. But we didn't get to what I wanted to look at yet. Verse 26.
Verse 26 says, for as the Father possesses life in himself, so he gave also to the Son to possess life in himself.
27 is a verse.
And he has given him authority also to do judgment, because he is the Son of Adam.
Okay, he has been given authority to judge. Drop down to verse 30.
It says, of myself I am unable to do any matter. As I hear, I judge, and my judgment is righteous.
Just like it said over in Isaiah. Keep on going.
Because I do not see my own desire, but the desire of the Father who sent me.
Okay, so he's judging not based on his own thoughts, but he's judging based on what the Most High has already declared.
Yep.
He's judging based on righteousness. And righteousness, is we understand what righteousness is because of the law, statutes, and commands that the Most High has given. Right?
Yeah.
So if we go back to Isaiah, let's go back to Isaiah 11, where it speaks of Yeshua, let's just say, speaking of Yeshua, who will in fact judge in righteousness. Okay, you stop reading, keep on reading verse 6.
And a wolf shall dwell with the lamb, and a leopard lie down with a young goat. And the calf and the young lion and the fatling together, and a little child leads them. And the cow and bear shall feed their young ones their young ones lie down together, and a lion eat straw like an ox.
We're talking about a peace that will exist in the world like we've never seen. Things that are natural enemies are going to be dwelling together because of the righteousness that is ruling on the earth at the time. Okay, all of these things are happening. We're talking about Yeshua in his return, bringing about his righteous judgment in the earth, and all of these things happening. Okay, keep on going. 8. Read 8.
And the nursing child shall play by the cobra's hole.
He's not even scared to be by that little snake hole. Don't matter if the snake come out. He probably just gonna play with it.
And the weaned child shall put his hand in the adder's den.
Keep on going.
They do no evil nor destroy in all my set apart mountain. For the earth shall be filled with the knowledge of Elohim as the waters cover the sea. And in that day,
that's what we want to pay attention to. And in that day, it says, and in that day, what's going to happen in that day?
There shall be a root of Yeshai standing as a banner to the people. Unto him the nations shall seek, and his rest shall be esteemed. Okay, so we're talking about
this thing that is in the future. It's in the future to Isaiah, for sure. But it's in the future for us. Because I ain't sticking my hand in no cobra's hole or an adder's den. The last time I seen a fox and a wolf and a lamb together, the wolf was probably eating the lamb. The last time I seen a leopard and a young goat together, the leopard probably had his mouth around the throat of the goat. And the same thing is true with a young lion and a calf. And I definitely didn't see no child sitting around, with all of these animals together. Unless I was looking at the Jungle Book or something. Some fantasy, right? But in real life, these things are at odds with one another. But in that day, talking about this time, this place where these things that are naturally at odds with one another, when the Prince of Peace comes and reigns, now some things are going to be happening differently. Okay? When we look at this in that day, when we look at this here, let me just click on this here. In that day, is often used in a prophetic tense. And oftentimes, and the majority of the times that we see this being used is used by Isaiah 39 times, plus or minus 39 times is used. Is talking about this Messiah figure who we know is Yeshua, and his ruling, the state of things while he is ruling, right? While he's judging in righteousness, while he's allowing for his right ruling to be going on. And so again, when we look at all of this, it kind of helps us to understand that the things that we see within this chapter are all things that happen as a result of the manifestation of Yeshua on the earth. Okay? Now, we didn't get to the thing that helps us to understand Deuteronomy yet, but we're just building up to it, right? Okay, so let's keep on going. Let's read also 11.
11. And it shall be in that day that Yahweh sets his hand again a second time.
Oh, hold on one second. Let me just... Okay, right. Go ahead.
You want to start over?
Yes.
And it shall be in that day that Yahweh sets his hand again a second time to recover the remnant of his people who are left from Asher and from Mitzrayim, from Pathros and from Cush, from Elam and from Shinar and from Hamath and from the islands of the sea.
Okay, again, so we see again, and it shall be in that day that Yahweh sets his hand again a second time to recover the remnant of his people who are left. Right? So we talking about another redemption that the Most High is doing. It said that he sets his hand again a second time. When was the first time? When was the first time? Because this is the second time. Okay, so we have to think about that. That he's rescuing these people. That he's intervening with the gathering of his people. In verse 12, read verse 12.
And he shall raise a banner for the nations and gather the outcasts of Israel and assemble the dispersed of Yehuda from the four corners of the earth.
The banner for the nations is Messiah.
Mm-hmm.
The banner that is raised for the nations is Messiah. Messiah is the one who will be looked to so that the people of the Most High will come together.
Mm-hmm.
But let's look at verse 12. He said he gonna gather the outcasts. I wonder, is that our same word we just was looking at? Of course it is. Okay, the same way that we looked over there where it talks about the people being outcasts in verse 4 of Deuteronomy chapter 6 is the same way that it talks about these people over here that are outcasts of Israel that are going to be gathered. Right? He says he's going to gather the outcasts of Israel, and he's going to assemble the dispersed of Yehuda from the four corners of the earth. Mm-hmm. This is something that's happening as a result of something that the Most High is doing. He's going to raise the banner Okay, so if I sit up here and I am trying to gather in my troops, right? Because it's given us kind of this metaphor of this situation, right? Where he says, "And he shall raise the banner for the nations, and gather the outcasts of Israel, and assemble the dispersed," right? And so, if I want to allow for the people to know that I want for them to come, they could be over there doing their things and kind of thinking about getting together and thinking about um, joining together and fortifying themselves and all of this, but they still got to wait for the signal, though. And when that signal is raised, then they know that it's time to move. And it said in verse 12, it said, "And he shall raise the banner for the nations." The most this Messiah figure who we know is Yeshua, who's filled with the Ruach, who's going to be this righteous judge. He, in fact, is the banner that we run to, right? That enables us to come together. He puts it in our hearts to do those things which are pleasing to the Most High. And so, again, this is more than just you feeling within yourself to say, I'm not living the way that I'm supposed to be living. Let me repent and turn around from my wicked ways. This is something that is being instituted from without, that interacts with us, and that causes us then to turn and come and be with the Most High. That's what we see over here. It started off by talking about the instigator of it all, who is Yeshua, from the beginning of the chapter. And then now, as we get down to the end of the chapter, it's talking about all the things that are happening as a result of him. Anybody got anything to say about this? Just put it right over there in the comment section. Okay? So keep on going over there. Let's finish up here with this in verse 13.
13 says, "And the envy of Ephraim shall turn aside, and the adversaries of Yehuda be cut off. Ephraim shall not envy Yehuda, and Yehuda not trouble Ephraim."
So the northern and the southern kingdom reunite. All of Israel is good with each other again. Okay? Judah shall not vex Ephraim, and Ephraim shall not envy Judah anymore. All of these things are getting fixed, not because they was able to diplomatically work things out, but because of how it all started in the beginning of the chapter with this one who we know of as Yeshua, who has the spirit that rests upon him. And then that we know, if we put our faith and trust in Yeshua, that same spirit that has been given to him without measure comes and rests upon us. Okay, so we're able to understand what's going on over here in Isaiah chapter 11 and know that this is Yeshua working, and we're able to see what it is that he's doing, gathering in the outcasts, the peoples that was scattered out to the four corners of the heavens. Okay, keep on reading. Just finish up the chapter there, 14.
"But they shall fly down upon the shoulder of the Philistines toward the west, Together they plundered the people of the east. Their hand stretched forth on Edom and Moab, and the children of Ammon shall be subject to them. And Yahweh shall put under the ban the tongue of the sea of Mitzrayim, and he shall wave his hand over the river with the might of his spirit, and shall strike it in the 7 streams, and shall cause men to tread it in sandals. And there shall be a highway for the remnant of his people, those left from Asher, as it was for Israel in the day when he came up from the land of Mitzrayim.
Okay, so again, looking at the way in which all of this is, takes place. It all begins with Yeshua. He is the one who gathers in the people. He gathers in all of Israel, all of Judah, all of Ephraim, and all the nations, all those who decide to come and join themselves to the people of the Most High. And then in verse 16, and there shall be a highway for the remnant of his people. He done already gathered in all the people, right? But then he's still gonna make there be this highway, this pathway, this unobstructed pathway that's able to lead straight to the Most High, that is formed and created by the Master. Okay? Mm-hmm. And so thinking about all of that, let's go back now. Let's go back to hold on one second here. Let's go back to you know what? Before we go back to Deuteronomy, let's look at something else here. Let's look at Isaiah some more. Let's look at chapter 43. Because we want to just say that the gathering is done by Yeshua. The gathering ain't done by me saying, look, it's bad out here. We know that these people out here is wicked, and we need to get away from these people. We need to come together, and we need to go over to the place where the Most High has put his name at. Come on, let's go. Let's do it now. Let's go out here. Let's come together in Yeshua's name and go back to the land and wait for Yeshua to come. That's not what we see over there. That's not what we see. We seen the one who came from the root of Jesse, who's filled with the Ruach without measure, come and cause for things that are natural enemies to be at peace with one another because of the mere presence of the Master Yeshua, who is literally and physically there with, present and ruling and judging in righteousness, right? We're not talking about the way in which the Master exists currently, inside of you and I, because the Master existing inside of you and I is still going through the filter of you and I, right? Which is the judgment is mingled with our own thoughts, and it's mingled with our own understandings, right? But we're talking about the actual presence of the Master Yeshua coming and dwelling in the earth, changing the game, and gathering his people together physically and literally. Okay? Not not us and the spirit inside of us doing it, but him actually doing it. Here, what's this say over here? Thank you very much. Very heavy prophecy here in Isaiah 11 about a place and a time to be when those 7 streams, highways, ways are opened up. Yes, yes. When we look at this Isaiah chapter 11, this is most definitely a serious prophecy. But again, when we look at this thing, this is this thing that it all begins with the Master Yeshua. Okay, so we go over to here, but let's continue with this thought of the fact that it's Yeshua who gathers us. It's the Most High who's doing the gathering. Okay, the Most High has a gatherer, and his gatherer is Messiah. So let's look at verse 5 here. Verse 5 of chapter 43. Hold on, just read, just go up to 3 and then come down. We're looking at 5.
For I am Yahweh Elohim, the set apart one of Israel, your Savior. I gave Mitzrayim for your ransom, Cush and Seba in your place. Since you were precious in my eyes, you have been esteemed, and I have loved you. And I give men in your place and peoples for your life. Do not fear, for I am with you. I shall bring your seed from the east and gather you from the west.
He said, I shall bring your seed from the east and gather you from the west. He's going to do it. He's not going to put an idea in your mind and you come together and go do it. He said he going to do it. He said, I will bring your seed from the east and gather you from the west. What's this? Let's this. I want to look at this. I want to look at gather, but what's he doing with the seed? He going to gather you from the west. But what he going to do with the seed? He going to bring them. He going to bow them. He going to come them. He going to go them. He going to bow them. Bow mean go. Bow mean come. It mean come and go. Right? He said, I shall make you to come. Your seed, actually. I'll make your seed to come. I'll make your seed to go. He gonna do it. He gonna bow the seed. I will do it. I is the Most High. We learned that from verse 3. For I am Yahweh your Elohim, speaking through the prophet Yeshayahu. I'm gonna bow you. Well, I'm gonna bow your seed from the east. And I'm going to gather you from the west. You're in the west. Your seed is over in the east. The people's all over the place. But the Most High said he going to gather everybody. But what's he going to do? He going to bow the seed and he going to kabats. He going to kabats you to grasp. He going to collect you. Like you ever have like some marbles or something, or a bag of jacks. My mom used to play jacks and stuff. That's old time stuff. Jacks before they had PlayStations and all that. All you need was a little bouncy little ball and some little pointy atom looking pieces of steel that you sit up there and bounce the ball and scoop up some jacks and grab the ball before it bounce down. I don't know the rules. Somebody put in the rules of jacks down in the comments.
I used
But
to play jacks.
who did?
I did.
No, you did not.
I used to get jacks.
Who did?
I played
When?
jacks.
You played jacks?
Uh-huh.
How you play it?
I don't remember.
Exactly.
I thought
'cause
you had to. I thought you had to bounce it, and before it bounced, you had to pick up as many things as you could get.
yeah, I think that's how you do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is how you do it. But you grasped.
Yeah,
You had to
grab
grasp.
as fast as you can.
You had to grasp the things.
As fast as you can.
You had to grasp them. You had to pick those things up and grasp them. You had to kabats them. Okay, you had to gather them. You had to bring them to yourself. Okay, but that's what the Most High is doing. The Most High got his jacks, who is his people, that he's scooping up with his hand like he did. He's doing it a second time like he did in the first, grabbing us with his hand. That's what he said over here in Isaiah and 43 and verse 5. Let's look at some more. This is overkill at this point. Jeremiah 29. He didn't say, I'm going to put this thought in your mind and you're going to go and make it happen. He said he's going to grasp you. Grasp. 29 and 14. What does that say? Jeremiah 29. Read for us verse. Let me get. Here, just read 12. I want 14, but start at 12.
Then you shall call on me and
Hold
shall...
on, who's me? I wonder who me is. Oh, let's say let's go up to 10.
says, For thus said Yahweh,
Oh, that's what Yahweh said. Okay, keep on going.
when 70 years are completed at Babel, I shall visit you and establish my good word toward you to bring you back to this place.
Mm-hmm.
For I know the plans I am planning for you, declares Yahweh,
Mm-hmm.
plans of peace and not of evil, to give you a future and an expectancy.
Mm-hmm.
Then you shall call on me, and shall come and pray to me, and I shall listen to you.
Mm-hmm.
And you shall seek me, and shall find me, when you search for me with all your heart.
Yes.
And I shall be found by you, declares Yahweh. And I shall turn back your captivity, and shall gather you from all the nations and from all the places where I have driven you, declares Yahweh. And I shall bring you back to the place from which I have exiled you.
Okay, very good. Again, the Most High talking about what he gonna do. The Most High talking about what he gonna do. All right, and so let's go back. Let's go back to Deuteronomy, because we're talking about we're talking about all of this because of what we see in Deuteronomy. Because we know that the Most High has a way about himself, which, you know, it resembles. He does things in a way in which it looks the same, but he's doing it at different times in different places. Okay. And so when we go back to Deuteronomy chapter 30, and we was looking at what verse was that? Verse 4, where he was talking about if any of you are driven out to the furthest parts under the heavens, from there. We didn't even have to go through all of that, what we just went through, because he said right here, from there your Elohim does gather you.
Mm-hmm.
And from there where you are, he does take you. He gonna take you. He gonna gather you from the furthest parts. But the thing that we have to remember again is that the difference is from what we seen over in, like, when we think about Jeremiah and Isaiah, who were prophets, you know, during this time of captivity that Israel came back from. The thing that is described in chapter 28 is something that you can't come back from on purpose. And we see in the timeline, in time, what begins to happen to Israel as a nation once we were cast out of Israel. Right? Once the temple was destroyed, once the people were begin to be scattered out from the land, taken all over the place, and as time goes on, getting to this place of unrecognizability, which is described in Ezekiel chapter 37 when it deals with these dry bones.
Yep.
And so again, the dry bones don't get up out of the dirt and say, I'm sorry for what I've done. That's not what the prophecy don't say. That the prophecy says that that to speak to the bones, and then the bones begin to form together and come together and begin to even look like they're humans again, and then speak to them again. And then once they get spoken to another time, now you even get to the place of understanding that those bones was actually Israel. And so again, when we look at chapter 30 of Deuteronomy, chapter 30, and which comes after 28, and it's talking about after all of these things come upon you, Deuteronomy 28, when after all those things come upon you, turn back again. We have to understand that this turn back again that's happening is how we're turning back again even right now, because we met with the master. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
I think that probably a lot of people don't know about people who say that the Messiah is an idea. It's it's like this idea of repentance and returning to the Most High.
Without an actual Messiah.
Without an actual Messiah.
Yeah.
It's just an idea. The Mashiach is an idea. It's not an actual person.
Yeah.
Or it's Israel. The Messiah is
those are both flawed thought processes.
And then that's how it was maybe more than a few years ago where they were like saying we're gonna create an Israel and have dual citizenship with this Israel, that it doesn't have a land or anything yet. But
you mean when they came out with that flag? You mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like a
It's like you said, it's like an idea.
It's like an idea, yeah.
The idea that the Mashiach is merely an idea is insufficient. Mm-hmm. Because that's just like me saying, well, I mean, we have Ezekiel 37 to contend with. We have Ezekiel 37 to contend with. Because if we say that as an idea, then the dry bones is just in their mind could come up with this idea and stop being dry bones again.
They just decided they don't want to be dry bones anymore.
That's not the imagery that we're given in the prophecy. The imagery that we're given in the prophecy coincides with what we see in Deuteronomy 28, where the people, because of our disobedience, was totally destroyed and annihilated to the place where nobody was able to save them.
Yeah.
because of our disobedience. When we look at these verses of what it is that the Most High said that he's going to do for us, his people, he said, I will gather you. I will gather you. I will send this righteous judge who the Spirit rests and dwells on to come and dwell and judge in righteousness over you. I will cause you to come back to me because I'm getting you with my hand and I'm gathering you up. When he talks about his hand, we have to be able to understand that his hand, again, is Yeshua. It's the actions that are instigated by the Most High that causes for his people to be rescued and saved. He's literally, again, we look at what he said over in the chapter talking about where he will set his hand again a second time. The first time he set his hand to you, he brought you out of Mizraim. He didn't give Moses an idea. Well, he might have gave Moses an idea, but it came also with actions that he made.
And miracles.
Miracles and wonders. Signs and wonders. So when you just say that it's just a thought process, that's not enough. Because Moses literally had to go to Pharaoh and say, let my people go. And then Pharaoh had to agree with him. What did it say over here? Let me see what we got. A be thinking. Interesting. I love that. Be thinking. A be thinking / remembering by way of his word, his right hand, and Ruach, causing those to live by his word again. Was you supposed to say rethinking or be thinking? I'm just wondering.
I think I'm rethinking.
Because be thinking, that's interesting. But we have to understand that all of this has to be, when we look at this and see the thing that we have to look. Oh, be think. Okay. Yes, I like be thinking. Right? Okay, so when we somebody give me I need that. I need this. I want to see what if that word goes back to 1828.
I don't have my iPad. 1828.
Somebody get that. I need 1828. Be thinking. But we have to understand at looking at this whole thing in its entirety, which is what we have to do from a systematic standpoint. From a systematic standpoint, understanding that these things, all of these things got to come together. All of these things got to come together in a fluid motion, right? We can't think about this thing. It's not fragmented, right? It's not this fragmented thing. It's this thing that flows all together, right? And so when we understand what it is that Yeshua came and did for us, and the way in which we are attached to the things that he did for us. We have an example of that in Ezekiel 37, where the one who has the Spirit on him speaks the word of the Most High to these dry bones, and the Spirit that is poured out from the deliverer touches something inside of those bones and begins to transform them from within. What does it say?
Bethink.
This is some old English right here. What that mean?
First one here is to call to mind, to recall, or bring to recollection, reflection, or consideration, generally followed by a reciprocal pronoun.
If I was just to think about be thinking, I'm causing the things that I'm thinking about to be. I'm bringing things to manifestation. If I'm be thinking, right? But we understand that the only way that we're able to come to these different realizations and understandings and rememberings is through the Ruach HaKodesh coming and dwelling on the inside of us and causing for us to be changed, revitalized, regenerated in our spirit man. Something externally has to come internally into us and cause for us to change and be transformed. And again, when we think about Deuteronomy 30, where he says over here, when all these things have come upon you, all of these terrible things that I just was talking about, when they come upon you, now you can change. But the problem is that you've been so far changed. If we think about Ezekiel chapter 16, where it talks about the state of the people, Israel, who turned into a harlot. But then the Most High is still going to marry his people? Not like that. Some got to change. A change has to happen. And so just because we don't see all of the steps over here, don't mean that the steps ain't there. The steps got to be there.
You gotta get cleaned up first.
Got to get cleaned up. And the cleaning up don't come by you just saying,
Sorry.
my bad.
Okay.
My bad. I won't do it no more. Go ahead.
That's why, when I had the woman prayer thing, I talked about the slichot, saying sorry, but then also the teshuvah part, which is the repentance part. So you want to include slicha, my bad, I'm sorry, excuse me. You want to include that, but that's only part of the process of repentance.
Yeah. And moreover, we have to also think about this cleansing thing. You filthy, dirty thing, you. You changing your mind
Isn't enough.
don't cleanse you. Where we had all of these acts and things that we did in place when Israel was a nation with a location, and all of these things that we did, you was able to be cleansed. That's a thing, because you could say, I'm sorry, I won't do it again, but how are you cleansed? You cleanse only by the master. Only by the master and the work that he did, and you understand the work that he did, do you receive the cleansing. Right? So there's always this external component that has to interact with you to complete this whole situation.
I think about like there's places in the area that's been polluted. You know, even where they built that cracker plant, I think that you was working on.
Yeah.
And they literally had to have people come in and restore
millions of dollars.
Restore that area.
Millions.
Just sitting there for years wasn't going to be good enough.
No, just them trying to say we're going to repurpose this land and use it for other purposes. You wasn't able to do it. They had to literally cleanse the land. And that's something that's typical. I remember as a child going to school on the north side. They were enhancing. It couldn't have been 28. It must have been the where the parkway connects with 28. Something they was doing over there with the road that is across from my middle school, between the middle school and Heinz factory over there. But they was going to build a road over there. But they dug up bodies over there. There was graves that they dug up over there when they was ancient. I don't want to say ancient, but that they didn't know about. I guess you could call it ancient. No. So they had to do something with that land first before they continued. But that's everywhere. It don't matter what you do. If you're sitting up here and dealing with the land, you can't just repurpose the land. The land has to be cleansed first and then repurposed. And so, I mean, Yeshua takes care of that. He takes care of that. But I'm saying that it can't be done without Yeshua. What does it say? If not for the Lamb, Yahweh Yahushua atoning work, when we turn from our sins, where would we be? We would be still in our sins. That's what we would be without him. Okay, let's go down. Let's go back to Deuteronomy to 30. Let's look at read again verse 7.
And Yahweh your Elohim shall put all these curses on your enemies.
Hold on. Actually, I meant to say 6.
And Yahweh your Elohim shall circumcise your heart and the heart of your seed to love Yahweh your Elohim with all your heart and with all your being, so that you might live.
He didn't say, he's not requesting of the people to circumcise themselves like how he did with Abraham. With Abraham, he said, you circumcise yourself. Abraham had that task where he had to sit up there and circumcise his own self. But circumcision as a practice is something that's done to you. Okay, this is very important. Circumcision as a practice is something that's done to you. Right? You typically not doing it to yourself. It's being done to you. You may make yourself ready and available for it to happen. But in terms of agreeing, you agree that it needs to be done, and you allow for it to be done, but you're not doing it to yourself. Right? But he says over in Deuteronomy 30:6, Yahweh your Elohim, my fault. Yahweh your Elohim shall circumcise your heart and the heart of your seed. But that's the same as saying, hold on. What's the difference between that? What's the difference between him saying that and the prophet over here saying this, 26 or 27?
And I shall give you a new heart and put a new spirit within you. And I shall take the heart of stone out of your flesh, and I shall give you a heart of flesh. And put my spirit within you, and I shall cause you to walk in my laws and guard my right rulings, and shall do them.
There ain't no difference. I'm saying it's the same thing. I'm saying that when we look over here in Deuteronomy chapter 30, when he says, and after all of these things come upon you, this is the way in which things is going to be carried out. And that is the fact that the Most High is going to deal with you in such a way that you are going to be able to be back in right standing with the Most High. And we saying this based on the fact that, again, looking back at what we've been given thus far, the place that disobedience brought Israel to is so low. Again, if we remember the list of the blessings, was short. And then there was to mirror it, the same things that we saw with the blessings, we saw with the cursings. And then there was so much more that happened after that. Right? Because, again, all of this being a way that the Most High planned for all of this to be and come about. This miraculous transformation that the Most High created and put into place, who in fact is Yeshua. Again, if we think about Isaiah chapter 11, the whole thing starts with us being introduced to Yeshua first, and then we find out about Israel being restored. The whole everything being restored. Lambs and lions hanging out together, and babies sticking their hand in snake holes. And so again, we look over here at Deuteronomy chapter 30, in chapter 30, verse 6, where it talks about the fact that Yahweh, your Elohim, will circumcise your heart, where other places where he says, for you to circumcise your heart, you get yourself ready. You think about the things that you're supposed to think about and do the things that I want for you to do. Over here, he said, Yahweh will circumcise your heart. Because when he do it, he gonna do it right. He gonna be like this lady that sat up here, had my baby up here passing out, circumcising it
Twice.
I believe my baby passed out while he was getting circumcised. He was having just so much, going through so much pain. He went in the shop and passed out 2 times. I'm saying that the Most High, when he do it, he get in there, he know just right what he doing. Shoop, snoop, snip, cut, done.
Like Dr. Abrams. Dr. Abrams did it fast?
Yeah, it was quick. He had like a little thing. He he stuck in there. Done. Was done. But when the Most High do it,
It's gonna be quick.
And it's going to be efficient. It's going to be efficient. He said, I will do it. He said, I will circumcise you. And then after I circumcise you, he said, I'm going to circumcise your heart and your seed's heart to love Yahweh. To love Yahweh. But not only just to love Yahweh Elohim, but to love Yahweh Elohim with all your heart and with all your being, with all your soul, so that you might live. He gonna do it. And so we saying that it's necessary for him to do it so that we can get out of this place where we're at as a result of the disobedience of our forefathers. We need that spiritual heart transplant so that we're able to love the Most High with all of our heart and with all of our souls so that we might live. And then coupling that with the next verse, read 7 again.
And Yahweh your Elohim shall put all these curses on your enemies and on those who hate you, who persecuted you.
Okay, so when he gonna do that? He did that already? He did that already?
Like people thought that was.
This is like this go hand in hand with the book of Revelation.
It does.
This is end time stuff over here. Because we already talking about Israel to a place of unrecognizability, but the return of Israel after that, and then what's going to happen to the people that persecuted Israel after that? Judgment by the righteous judge.
Right.
This is some apocalyptic writings over here, Deuteronomy chapter 30. I wonder if you looked up apocalyptic writings. Deuteronomy chapter. Somebody Google Deuteronomy. No. Somebody Google apocalyptic writings. You know you're gonna get Daniel. You know you're gonna get Revelation. But you get some other verses. I wonder if Deuteronomy in the list. I'm saying Deuteronomy chapter 30 is apocalyptic. If it ain't on the list, it need to be. Somebody ask all knowledge and see what come up. Just as a little thing.
Because nobody yet is observing all his commandments, which he commands us.
No, they ain't doing it. And then even when we think about the placements of the chapter, when he said, when all these things come upon you, he's talking about the things that he already talked about. And so we have to be able to put this stuff together kind of chronologically and see where this fits in the situation. When the Most High circumcises your heart and causes you to do his law, statutes, and commands, the only way he's doing that is through his Ruach HaKodesh. Not by you just sitting around and saying, well, I believe in your mind, believing that, I believe the Bible to be the case. But until you have a spiritual transformation on the inside of you, that's not this over here. That's not the circumcision of your heart. Because it's talking about loving them with all your heart and all your soul. And so you might just, in your mind, be loving him a little bit. But the thing that he do to you when he come in here with that surgical knife and get at that heart and cut all of that heart of stone out and put a heart of flesh in there. It's interesting, but it's interesting that we have this thought about circumcision. Where he talks about the circumcision of the heart, and then when he talks about doing the surgery on you, it's a transplant. Because circumcision ain't, it's not a transplant.
Mm-hmm.
They don't put nothing else there.
They take away. Don't put nothing there.
Mm-hmm.
They get cut off.
But with the thing that he talk about, he taking something out
That's somebody.
and getting rid of something and putting something else back in to replace the old thing. That's something that we could never do. We could only circumcise our own heart. But when we talk about the way that the Most High circumcised it, he actually is doing a transplant.
You know, that's
It's not
sort of-
circumcision.
sort of flesh.
Yep.
Circumcision what does it mean? Is it just a cutting?
It's just cutting.
Yeah.
Reap.
What? Cut down, destroy. Cut to pieces.
Because you taking a part off when you mool. When you mool, you cut that thing short. You curtail it. But when we get down here, when we talk about the figuratively speaking now, you destroyed the Most High. What he do? He destroyed the old thing, and then he put in something new. He take away that stony thing, that's hard and not pliable, and he replaces it with a heart of flesh. Okay, so again, we look at this Deuteronomy chapter 30. This thing over here, this thing is futuristic. Let me see this real quick. Let me look at this.
Yeah, because he said not only he circumcised their heart, but the heart of their seed coming after them.
Yeah. Yeah. He's creating a whole new situation over here. That's generational.
Because Israel needed their heart circumcised coming out of Egypt anyway. It
Yes.
wasn't a circumcised people anyway. You know?
Mm-mm. And so when we look at what happened with Israel coming out, we look at what it was Israel coming out. It was a circumcision, but it wasn't a transplant.
Yeah.
And we seen what happened. I mean, he's doing this. He does this for us on purpose because it's all teaching us. They got a literal circumcision. It took what was there and then cut some stuff off. But there wasn't a transformation piece, which is why they ended up right back where they started at.
Mm-hmm.
And why he had to start all the way over again. And so when we get to Deuteronomy 28, where he says to the people, this is what you're going to do, and this is where you're going to end up, and this is where your disobedience is going to take you to, after all of those things come upon you, don't worry. Yes, I'm going to destroy you, but I'm bringing you back.
So it like I can only speak for myself. Like when I first read this, and I seen the condition, because I knew something was wrong before I read this.
Mm-hmm.
I would look at our people and be like, something ain't right. Then when I finally found this, it was like instant, like, this is what's wrong. We ain't doing this. And so right from there, I was convinced at least to be like, this is what I need to be doing.
Mm. Yeah.
And so I'm thinking like maybe, I mean, clearly it was his plan for us to go through this, but maybe that was a plan all along for us to go through all of his curses.
Yeah.
I mean, because I'm trying to think, like, when he brought us out, it wasn't like he was, it wasn't planned for us to stay
in the land and all. Like there was, the whole process had to be played out, like for us to like to show us a fall and then be redeemed again.
Yeah, because Yeshua was slain from the foundation of the earth. And so you had to even get to the place of where Yeshua even come about in the fullness of time.
Mm-hmm.
All the things that led up to it. He's however many generations he is away from David.
Mm-hmm.
All the stuff that David had to go through with his with just his children, with his life before the children, with his life and him dealing with the king that he followed. If Yeshua was slain from the foundation of the earth, all of those things that happened beforehand had to happen first. And so it's all in the plan. It's all in the plan. But again, we talked about kind of predestination the other week, where when we think about the way that the Most High dealing with things outside of time and space, if I'm outside of time, I'm able to see the end and know the end from the beginning.
Right.
And so I know in order for this thing to happen over here, I know that something got to happen over here first.
Mm-hmm.
So let me, again, we talk about Yeshua being slain from the foundation of the earth, thinking about the fact that it was known and necessary from the very beginning of time, from the very foundation of things, that I need to send my son into this earth, and he got to die and raise up after the third day and come back to the Father and send out his Ruach HaKodesh to indwell inside of my people, so that we are able to have the relationship that's necessary for us as a people to be able to actually be the people of the Most High.
Or as going with this chapter, like you said, receive the transplant.
Yes, to receive that spiritual transplant. It's the only way, because when we look back at the so-called Old Testament, we're able to see that, again, a regular old circumcision just taken away ain't enough, because the people came out of Mitzrayim and he circumcised Israel by way of, when we look at the 600,000 people that came out of Egypt, a generation being told that they wasn't going to make it into Egypt, but yet when they go over, the generation that came out of Egypt wasn't going to make it into Israel, and understanding that the number of the people that went into Israel was like a little more than 600,000. So the people kind of recycled themselves in the wilderness. You got the same amount of people, even though you had a whole bunch of people dying out over there. Things was cut off. They go over, and in the fullness of time, you had these various captivities that go on all the way up till now. Just proving the fact that I'm saying a simple circumcision don't work. And it's teaching us that we need something to happen externally to do something to us internally for this whole thing to work. He can't just say, I am the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob to you without touching your heart. And that'd be enough. Because that's what the people had. They had the Most High literally speaking to them and saying, I am the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I'm the one who took you out of Egypt. I'm the one who brought you through the wilderness these 40 years, and your shoes didn't wear out and your clothes didn't wear out. And you was never hungry, even though you complained and act like you was hungry. And when you needed water, I gave you some water. I'm him. But that wasn't enough, because all it was a cutting away of the bad parts that was visible at the time. But there's some more bad parts yet to manifest themselves, because our flesh, our carnality is lacking. It's lacking that connection, that spiritual connection to the Most High, which is only rectified through the Ruach HaKodesh. And so again, looking at this over here, Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 6, where he said, I will circumcise you. It's interesting when we look at, if we go down to verse 11, again, I'm saying that this over here, these are some apocalyptic writings. Because read for us again verse 11. What did I say?
But this command which I am commanding you today, it is not too hard for you, nor is it far off.
It's not too hard for you. The thing that he's talking about, whatever it is that Moshe is talking about to these people, is not too hard for you, nor is it far off. But the people that he's talking to, it's too hard for them. Who he talking to? They got problems left and right. These ones here.
And they still saying the same thing to this day. Oh, you can't keep it.
Yeah.
Oh, you can't. It's
without the effort, no effort.
It's impossible to do it.
It is impossible for him.
I'm saying I'm saying without Isaiah chapter 11, without the manifestation of the root of Jesse, without Messiah in you, it is too far off. It is far off from you, and it is too hard. And we seen how it was too hard. These people had all of the things that they needed to have, and they wasn't able to do it. It was still necessary for Yeshua to come. But I'm saying that the thing that he's talking about is that. The thing that he's talking about is the thing that's not too hard for you. The thing that he's talking about is this. Here, what are he talking about? He talking about this right here. This is the thing that ain't too hard for you. I pushed the wrong button. It's 1 John chapter 5. Is it chapter 5? Oh yeah, verse 3. What I say?
It says, for this is the love for Elohim, that we guard his commands, and his commands are not heavy.
His commands aren't heavy. They're not burdensome. They're not grievous to you. But not just them in and of themselves. It's you, that's the people that's born of Elohim, though. That's who he's talking about. He's talking about the people who's born of Elohim. He's talking about people who actually have the Ruach HaKodesh living on the inside of them. The ones that's actually able to manifest the love of Elohim. But that's the same thing that Moshe is talking about over here, who have a circumcised heart, circumcised by the Most High. And again, understanding that his circumcision was different than a regular circumcision, because his circumcision is a transplant that causes you to be able to love you and your seed, to love your Elohim with all of your heart. If we just think about something that's able to cause you and your seed to do something, I know that you're something that you're able to have within your own self. But the thing that he's talking about is something that you're able to have within your own self, and your seed is also able to have it within their selves too.
Right.
So it's a little more than me just knowing something and then being able to tell it to them, like me being part of it. It's a little more than that. This thing that he's talking about, but when he do it, when he circumcise your heart, and he gonna circumcise the heart of your seed also, to love you with all of your heart and with all of your soul, so that you may live. Again, I'm saying that this chapter over here is talking about the thing that we are able to experience in this day and time, even just right now. He's talking to these people about after what would happen to their seed as a result of 70 AD, which didn't even happen, right? This is BC times. This Moses, there never even was a nation at this point, really. It was just a people with no land that they didn't get to yet. And so again, when we look over here at this thing where he's talking about this thing that's not too hard for you, that's us for right now. Because we have that Ruach HaKodesh living on the inside of us, and the Spirit in us gives us the ability to walk out his ways. Where his walking in his ways is not too difficult for us and is not out of our reach. It is out of your reach if you're trying to do it according to your own strength. It is out of your strength. It's out of your reach, and it is too difficult for you. And we could just say that just based on science. We're able to look at the data. We're able to look at the data and see how righteous people are in their own strength. Righteous with parentheses, finger quotes around it. Outside of the Spirit of the Most High.
Could we get if you go to Galatians 5:16? I think this is what Israel, well, not only back then, but it says nothing new under the sun, so it don't matter what time period you go to. But I'm gonna say, I'll read it up there. And I say, walk in the Spirit, and you shall not accomplish the lust of the flesh, because they coming out. They had a spirit, like you said. And for the flesh lusts against the spirit, and the spirit against the flesh. And these are opposed to each other, so that you do not do what you desire to do. So even though they heard it and accepted, we'll do what you say do, they didn't have the spirit to accomplish it.
I mean, that right there is just... It's self-explanatory, isn't it? If we look at this, right?
Yeah.
Walk in the Spirit, and you shall not accomplish the lust of the flesh. Is this a way that you could potentially not, or potentially do walk in it, or is it like one or the other. I feel like it's one or the other. We must do this in order to not accomplish this. It's not like it's a way. Like I can get to Family Dollar from here a couple ways. If I go right or left, I can get there eventually.
Right.
But I don't feel like this is giving me like one option. Like one option for me to do is to walk in the Spirit, and then I won't accomplish the lust of the flesh. But maybe there's other ways that I could not accomplish the lust of the flesh outside of that. I don't believe that that's what this is talking about over here.
No,
I believe that this is the only way that I'm able to not accomplish the lust of the flesh is by walking in the Spirit. It's not giving me like options that it's not telling me all the options here. It's giving me the only way that I'm able to do it. Because these two things are opposites against each other.
You know what they say? That's an ultimatum.
The Bible don't give us ultimatums. The Bible don't give us
That's what
ultimatums.
they say.
you got free will.
They say that's an ultimatum.
God loves all.
This here is saying that there's one way to do it.
Yep.
And if you don't do it this way, you're not going to get there. Because these two things are opposing to one another. So that you do not do what you desire to do. So your default is accomplishing the lust of the flesh. That's what you desire to do. The Spirit wants to forbid you and keep you from doing what you desire to do. Your spirit does. The Spirit of the Most High in you. That's what the Spirit of the Most High in you wants you to do. But you, in your carnality, in your flesh, in your desires of the flesh, it makes it kind of bad when you say lust, but it's only desires. That's all the word means is desires. The desires of your flesh is something that's opposing to what the Most High will have for you to be doing. But what was the other verse you wanted to see here? Oh, 25.
24. And those who are of Messiah have impaled the flesh with its passions and the desires. If we live in the Spirit, let us also walk in the Spirit. Let us not become consumed. That part, basically. Yeah.
This is what you have done. So you killed the flesh, you impaled it. Just like the Master Messiah was impaled and killed. It was a picture of the necessity for our flesh to be also impaled. Our flesh and the passions with it.
And the desire. So what this say to me is humility. Because you got to humble yourself. You know, when you look up the definition of humble, I mean lower yourself or base yourself. So it's like you and your thoughts and desires mean nothing. And I felt, looking in the Exodus and even today, people don't want to humble themselves.
Yeah.
They don't want to, because humbling yourself, that's what you're going to do. You're going to get rid of impale yourself, crucify your passions and desires, and adopt or transplant what the word say.
Right. Yes. And so this, again, looking at Deuteronomy chapter 30, even though we're looking at these things and we're seeing what it says where it's saying, even still, after all of that has come upon you, you can still repent. You can still turn around. You can still choose the Most High. All of those things are true, what he said. But we have to think about, from a literal standpoint, how it is that we're able to come to these things. How these things is able to be manifest. Again, we think about the state of Israel the state of nastiness and disgustingness that is used to describe Israel, how is Israel able to recover from all of that as a people that was cut off from the Most High, as a husband and a wife, as she is divorced and cut off from her husband? How do she come back? Not simply by him saying, all right, everything's cool now, I forgive you.
You're going to end up with the same result. If you ain't changed,
Something gotta give.
yeah, you gotta.
He said he was going to do it. He said he was going to let the wife come back. But where he said he was going to do it, he didn't give you all the information at that particular point.
Right.
But he's given us all the information in this book that shows us that it's not just that easy for him to just say, it's cool,
Yeah.
it's cool, come back. We good now. There's some parts
Yeah.
that's missing, in the context. And so again, when we think about Deuteronomy chapter 30, where he says, after all these things have come upon you, all these things being Deuteronomy 28, all the things in the curses that's given to you in Deuteronomy 28 bring about the idea of a finality where there ain't no coming back. But then 2 chapters later, it says, if you change your mind, everything gonna get turned around, and then all of your oppressors is gonna be oppressed by you. But again, we have to be able to think about the Bible as a whole, as a complete work, and understand how it is that he makes these things to happen. And that's why I went to Isaiah chapter 11, because when he in Isaiah chapter 11 talks about bringing in the outcasts, it's the Most High working directly in it through the Messiah. And so I'm saying that Deuteronomy chapter 30 is messianic,
Definitely.
because it's telling us without telling us that the way that we manifest these things that it's talking about over here in this chapter is through the Messiah. It's the only way, because any other way is going to end up the same, as these other things.
Yeah.
You keep on trying the same thing over and over again. It's lunacy to think that just because you're doing it another time the same way,
Right. It's going.
that you're going to get something different.
Right.
I just got this. I just got this silly doorbell,
Oh yeah, we seen that.
and
Ring.
I don't have the proper transformer for the chime, for my old time chime. And so
How old is our chime?
it's pretty old. And so when you push the button, it don't chime the old time chime because it's not powerful enough.
Mm.
The transformer need to be reworked. So I could hook a new bell up, but the bell requires more power to operate than the old time chime is able to generate. So I could change that all I want to. It's never going to ring the chime until I get more power. Now somebody could sit up here and talk about that right there and have some people running around in circles and falling out. Because you can't just keep on thinking that you're going to be able to manifest things unless you have the appropriate amount of power working in the situation.
Yep.
And our power comes from the Ruach HaKodesh.
Yep.
What this say over here? Yes, transplant. Yehoshua has come! Exclamation point. Sending the Ruach to lead us to act and change. The physical man being ruled by the Spirit. I don't know what FOS discipline means. Fruit of the Spirit, discipline. As Moses' face shone while still a man. So, when we look at, we have examples, not many, but we have examples of people in the scriptures where we see that these people were walking in the Spirit. Moses is on top of the list, where he was able to actually go and speak with the Most High, and the Most High speak with him. And it spoke with him face to face. The intimacy that Moses had with the Most High was at such a level of intimacy that he literally had a physical change happen to him as a result of their intimacy. And that physical change that he had was so powerful that people wasn't even able to actually look at his physical presence as a result of it. But again, Moses was a picture of Messiah. And we're able to have that same situation in us to a degree. When we think about the fact that the Spirit in us changes us in such a way that when people look at us, they see the glory of the Most High. Just like with Moses. But again, these things working in us is what causes Deuteronomy chapter 30 to come about. So again, when we think about this idea of the Most High, accepting now his people and causing his people once again to be great again after all of these things come upon you. He's making these statements, but all the information is not given. But now we have all the information.
Right.
We have all the information. We know that these things come about, are able to come about because of what Yeshua has done and makes available to us. We know that Deuteronomy 30 chapter 11, where it says, "For this command which I command you today is not too hard for you, nor is it far off." It's true because of the fact that we have the Spirit inside of us, which literally causes us to do his laws, statutes, and commands.
Yeah, he was giving a tidbit too to let us know that we didn't have it like our own on our own accord of ourselves.
Yeah,
Cause that's deep. He said it's not too hard for you, but nor is it far off. Meaning you still got to get somewhere to get. You don't got it.
yeah, right.
It's because why make that statement? Nor is it far off. Meaning you can get to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's something you got to do.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's so interesting that when you think about kind of the way that things are kind of taught, when you think about the idea of, Jesus, he did it for me.
yeah,
He did it for me so I don't have to do it. Like, that don't make any sense. He did it for me so I don't have to do it.
he did all the work. When he
Like,
was the example.
He walked in righteousness so I don't. Is that true? He walked in righteousness so I don't have to be righteous.
He said,
Is that?
You doing stand up right now?
I'm just saying, like, is that? That's what you said. If you say that he did it perfect so I don't have to do it, Is that the same as saying he walked in righteousness, so I don't have to walk in
You don't have
righteousness?
to walk in
Yes.
righteousness.
Those are synonymous, right?
Yeah,
That's what it means.
I'm covered in the blood. I'm good.
But he said, if you suffer with me, you'll
Right.
reign with me.
Right.
He did say that.
Leave that out.
He did say that.
And he said, enter through the straight gate. And he talked about how hard it was.
The straight gate is little. Straight's not straight as in a straight line.
Yeah.
The straight is narrow.
Narrow.
It's a narrow way
It's a
to get in.
The path is narrow.
The wide way is the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one that leads to destruction.
Mm-hmm.
The one that leads to life is this narrow, is this little skinny way
Mm-hmm.
that is hard to get through. It's funny because, working in construction, a lot of times your path out of places is blocked because they build studs, walls, where you was able to walk straight through from here to where the steps are, but now there's a wall there. But it's just a studs where the wall is not there yet, but there's 16 inches in between. So if you turn and squeeze, if you're a big guy like me, you can suck your stomach in and fit through them 16 inches. But it's a straight way. You got to turn. I can't walk straight away. I got to get sideways to go through it. And I got to suck my stomach in to get through it. But that's a straight way. It's skinny. You can't just walk like you regularly walk normally through the studs.
So what you're saying is it takes a degree of difficulty to get through this straight way.
There is a degree of difficulty. And I gotta stand upright to do it. Because the electricians come along and put their wires in the studs like at like chest height. So now I gotta bend down under the wire and be sideways. It's very hard. It's very hard.
So do you do that or do you just walk around?
I do it sometimes. When the wires come across, I don't do it. I go the long way.
Yeah.
Before the wires get in there and I can stand up straight and get in there, I'll do that all day.
So I'm gathering that going through the straight path requires some effort.
It requires effort. Not everybody's willing to do it because it's hard.
Some people look at the gate like, no, I'm
I'm good. I'm gonna go the long way.
That's easier over there.
I'm gonna take steps. I'm gonna walk the long way around
Yeah.
because this straight path is too difficult.
But with his way, there is no long way.
It's
It's the only way.
the only way. The
only
long way don't get
where
you
you're
there.
trying to get to, yeah.
It's like a maze. It's like a maze, and there's only one path that's gonna get you to the destination.
That's funny. I envision in my mind like you go to the wide way, and it leads you back to the straight gate.
That's what I was just thinking.
But you keep going to the wide way. You're like, man, why can't I get there? And you keep coming back to that straight gate because you don't want to go down there, and that's the only way.
Every path you try to take leads you back to
Right.
that narrow
Yeah.
gate.
Yep.
And so this is life in Messiah. And again, when we think about where it talks about in Paul's writings, when we talk about we see through a mirror or a glass darkly. That's a perfect example of what we have over in Deuteronomy chapter 30, where we could look at this thing and it says right here that is not too hard. It's not too far away. But again, the science, the science teaches us, the data shows that it was in fact too hard for these people. That's how we ended up over here in the first place. That's why we're here. But there is a way that was made available to us, which causes this to be true. And that way is Messiah. That way is Yeshua. That way is the one who the Spirit of the Most High rested on. Without, what did it say? What did it say over there? In it rested on him without measure. Okay, that's talking about Yeshua. So again, we think about these, these people who talk about these different things. We have to be able to look at the whole of Scripture and take all of the things into account when we're looking at it, because it's not always going to be, especially when looking at these scriptures, right? They're parts of a whole, and we have to think about this thing as a whole, because he's given us a lot at different times.
Right.
And we got to put all of these puzzle pieces together to be able to really understand what it is that the Most High is calling for us to be doing. Well, I want to just talk about one more thing before we are done here with this. Let's drop down to,
Yes.
let's see here. I think it's verse 19. Hold on a second. Hold on, where is it? Oh, it's verse 20 actually.
To love Yahweh.
Hold on, matter of fact, just read 19 and 20.
Okay. I have called the heavens and the earth as witnesses today against you. I have set before you life and death, the blessing and the curse. Therefore, you shall choose. You shall choose life, so that you live, both you and your seed, to love Yahweh your Elohim, to obey His voice, and to cling to Him, for He is your life and the length of your days, to dwell in the land which Yahweh swore to your fathers, to Abraham, to Yitzchak, and to Jacob, to give them.
I want to just pay attention to this word right here. The scripture says to cling to Him. King James says that thou mightest cleave to Him. That word there is dabak. To impinge, that is cling, adhere, catch by pursuit, abide, fast. Fast not as of running, but if I stand fast, I'm firm. Cleave, to be joined together. All of these things, right? And so the Most High said to obey His voice and cling to Him. What does it take to cling to the Most High? To cling to Him. You ever been on like the I guess you would have to actually be from the Pittsburgh area to have went to Kennywood. But I'm sure at any amusement park you have these things like what was that ride? I want to say it was like the little turtle looking thing where like you sit in this circular thing. It's a circular thing with a circular wheel in the middle, and you hold on to the wheel. And the thing like spins around in circles and goes in circles.
I hated that thing.
Teacups.
Is it the teacups? I don't know what it is. But you're sitting in a thing. The whip was like that. The whip was like that where you go in this line, but when it goes around the corner, like you got to hold on to the thing or you're going to be crushing the person that's in there with you.
Yeah.
Right? But I'm saying all that just to say that you got to cling to that wheel.
The music expresses like that too.
There's a lot of those things that are like that where it's clinging. It's clinging. If you got these little babies that cling to you, that they just won't even get up off of you.
Yeah.
Because they're clinging to you. You're so clingy. You're so clingy. Like you won't get off of me. Like Every time I turn around, you're just right up on me. You're clinging to me. But the Most High said, obey my voice and cling to me. Don't let go. If you let go, you're going to fall off.
Yeah.
If you let go, something bad's going to happen. Like you're holding on for dear life. You're clinging. Like, is this how we're living our life for the Most High? Because that's what he said is required of you. He said, therefore you shall choose life. If you choose life, so that you live, both you and your seed, to love Yahweh your Elohim, to obey his voice, and to cling to him, that's how you receive all of these benefits. Life. By clinging to the Most High. You're holding on. You don't want to let go. Clinging. You want to stay right over there. Clinging. We understand that the way that the Most High has endowed us with strength and the ability to grip onto him and not let go is through the Ruach HaKodesh. The way that we cling to him is through the power that he's given to us. He gives us the ability to be able to cling. But we have to understand that that's what we must do. We can't sit around and say, well, Yeshua clinged, so now I don't have to. That's not what happened. Yeshua clinged so that you have the ability to also cling. And that's what this whole thing is about.
I'm also gonna say, like, you gotta relinquish the power you think you got. Because our people think we somebody. Like we think we can handle stuff.
Yeah.
But when you give it to him, and that's like literally adopting. Like, you gotta know the book for real. You have to know, like you said, in hindsight, it's 2020. Like, they were given pieces, but now we got the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And when you can see the whole thing, you adopt it. It's like you really don't gotta think really too hard about a lot. He already gave you what to think about things.
Yeah.
It's like I just gotta do what he said, like, and let wherever else fall where it may, because it's not up to me.
Right.
And people want to feel empowered by their own mind, and I came up with this.
That's a mistake.
I came up with this thought, this way of thinking, and not giving it to him, because I'd be like, they'd be like, oh, that was a good idea. I'm like, well, I mean, the Most High, like,
yeah,
that's his principle, like,
right.
And life will go a little bit smoother for you.
Right. I mean, again, just like when we think about the way that is presented to us in Isaiah chapter 11, where it begins with Messiah, over here, before we get to clinging down in verse 20, in verse 6, he said, Elohim, Yahweh your Elohim will circumcise your heart and your heart of your seed to love him. And so the only way we get to 20, where it talks about this choosing life and loving, choosing life so that you could live, both you and your seed, to love Elohim, to obey his voice, and to cling to him. The only way you get to that is if the Most High first circumcises your heart. We can't forget about, by the time we get to Deuteronomy 30, chapter 30, verse 20, we can't forget about what he already said up here in verse 6, is that the way that you love him with all of your heart and with all of your being, so that you might live, is that he first circumcises your heart. That he circumcises your heart. And so we know what circumcision of the heart looked like, because he talked to us about it in Ezekiel chapter 36 and 26, 27. So just say right here, people would rather focus on people clinging to them instead of focusing on clinging to the Most High, the ego. I mean, the ego and pride is a terrible thing, but it's the beginning of your downfall. Is your ego? Is you thinking? I can't think of how many times you see these young people sit up here and want to just pick up the most heaviest things that there is. And because they're so prideful, they might go ahead and do it. And maybe you got to pick up this heavy thing and take it, a little ways. And you know inside of you that you probably aren't going to make it. But you can't let nobody see that you don't make it. Guess what? That is pride working on the inside of you. And in those type of situations, you're only doing something hurting your own self. But when we think about the way pride works in general, your ego, this is something, that's just a small example of how the thing works. And, what we're talking about, when you sit up here and think about, I'm able to manifest righteousness in my own righteousness. The scriptures tell me that my own righteousness is as filthy rags, which is pretty disgusting. Your own righteousness, the thing that you think is righteousness within your own self, is the nastiest thing that we can even just think about. Unclean, acceptable thing. The only righteousness that we're able to manifest is the righteousness that's been given to us through Messiah. The strength, power, and ability that he gives us so that we're able to survive. All right, so I just want to talk about that clinging thing real quick. We want to be able to understand these things that the Most High is given to us. He's making these things plain for us if we take all of the things into consideration. And so, that being said, does anybody have any last thoughts, questions, comments before we are done? Okay. All right, that being said, thank everybody for participation, all of your comments and additions to the situation. Y'all willing, we will be back on next Shabbat to continue. We only have a few more chapters left in Deuteronomy before we start all over again, back in Bereshit. But we, again, like I said, we still have a few more chapters to go.
Someone might be like, is the Torah over yet?
No, the Torah is never over. It is. It never ends.
Reset back.
We just start all over again.
I think it's reset back to Genesis.
It's on repeat.
Yeah, it's on repeat. We're on a 3-year repeat. All right. So that being said, we want to say Shabbat Shalom. Y'all willing, we'll be back on next Shabbat.